Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes, Heichaltzu. Okay, continuing on, we started talking about that sort of in the positive way of how to have more of Yisrael and connect to other people. And within yourself, it's through understanding. We talk about that there's Avos Hashem, and we discussed that. And tomorrow, talk about yesh Hashem. But essentially, what's this Avos Hashem? There's two types of levels of godliness. And the way that God creates the world, one is one is yesh ma'ayin. Il is cause and effect. It's like intellect and emotions. You think about something and you feel. And that's sort of how we're meant to understand Chassidus and anything that we learn in Torah. You think about the idea and you understand it to the point that it brings you to an emotion. And that's il of alu. There's a cause and there's effect. And they connect. And you see the relationship. You know, and most of life is a cause and effect. It's like you stub your toe and it hurts. There's a cause and effect, and you know why. And that's how sort of life works in a logical progression. But the way God created the world is coming from the level of yesh ma'ayin. That God is sort of infinite, and the relationship between them is something from nothing. Meaning, you can't sort of trace it back. It's a totally different thing. And like we use the example of throwing the rock, that the nature of the rock is that it doesn't fly. But in order for the rock to fly, you have to put in energy. And that energy that you put in has to constantly be there for it to fly. Once that energy ceases to be, then the rock goes back to the nature, which is coming down. And that's what we're going to discuss this a little more today. Okay, so we're on page 93. Yeah, and we're saying that godliness, God vests himself into the existence of the world, but in a way that we don't feel that connection. And the way he does it, in a way that he's concealed from the world, so we feel ourselves as a separate existence. And if, God forbid, he would take that away, we would become nothingness again. Because the only reason why it exists, just like the rock, once that power of force that's being put into the rock to make it fly stops, the rock goes back to the rock. And what is the rock by nature? Non-existent, falling. So too with us, by nature, we don't exist. The only reason we exist is because God is putting life into us. And we're going to discuss it a little more today. So to explain this last statement, the fact that we exist is a novelty, it's something new. And anything that's a new entity, the only way it can exist is by the person making it to exist. It's like, I think the example of Gordon that he gives, that in the old days when you go to like a movie theater, you have it's like a projector. You had this film that it went through this machine that shot light, and that light projected onto a big screen, and then that screen would show the film. Now that screen, you look at it, and there's a movie, whatever it is, and there's horses, and there's people, and there's the whole thing going on, and it looks very, very real. But does that truly exist? And the only reason why that's existing on that screen is because of the whole mechanics behind it. If you want that to stop existing, the only thing you do is you turn off the lights, you turn off the machine, and it stops playing the video. And it's sort of with us. The only way that movie exists on the screen is because of that constant work happening from by the theater. And that's sort of what we're saying, that because the world's existence. Because think about it, in the beginning there was only God, and God created everything. It wasn't there was God and something else, God forbid. It was just God. Then everything that comes out of that is existing only because God's making it exist. And so too, and that's with us. We're like the screen, and the only reason that screen is working is because there's a light shining through film in the back of the theater. So if you want that to stop, it just turn it off. And if you want it to continue, it has to be constantly running. And that's what God's doing, so to speak. He's constantly running. Because if he doesn't, this novel thing will stop, just like the rock. So the energy put into the rock to make it go up. Once that energy goes away, it goes back to its natural state, which is going down. So in our case, it's lack of existence. We don't exist. Yeah. Yes, he says over here in this note, the very good point, the second part of the paragraph of the note. Similarly, in the analog, before creation, the physical realm did not exist, nor is there any basis for its existence. Hence, its existence is maintained only because the creative force which gives its existence, its existence is present. Like, and this is sort of, and this is the Alter Rebbe talks about in Netanya and Shayachud, at the mistaken thought that people have, that they compare creation, which is something from nothing, to like a craftsman. A person takes wood and they make a chair, and the chair exists on its own. But the problem with that is, in the beginning there was a chair and there was a person. By God, in the beginning there wasn't two things, so therefore the only way he exists is because he's making it exist. I hope people understand this. This is it's a very interesting idea. But when we think about these things, and this is sort of the point, we're meant to be learning about this. We had to have the words to think about it and really to meditate on this. And what does this mean? And how do I understand this? Do I really understand this? And think about these concepts. And we can learn it again and learn it again by ourselves. And you think about this. And this is totally incomparable to the cause and effect. Cause and effect is like the chair and the person making it. That is the cause and the effect. You see what he did, and that's how he made it. I want to talk about this in different terms later on. Like, for example, intellect and emotions. That it's possible to have the emotion even when you forgot the reasoning, meaning you thought about an idea and that produced an emotion. You read something, you read an emotional book, and that produced an emotion within you. That emotion can continue even without the idea or remembering the book. Why? Because the emotion itself is not a new thing, not a brand new thing. We have emotions. It happened to be that this emotion was expressed in this specific case, in this way. And it was already there before. And therefore, because in the beginning, there was an emotion. It's just we revealed it, we expressed it. And because meaning in the beginning there was intellect and those emotions. We just used to combine together to come together to produce an emotion in a specific way for a specific issue, which came back to the intellect. But it wasn't that there was the only intellect and that produced emotions. There was intellect and emotions. So therefore, even after the intellect goes away, the reasoning, you forgot the reasoning on page 1 on top of 94. That even when you lose the reasoning, you can still have the emotion because they're two separate things in the first place. Nevertheless, he says, but nevertheless, in a considerable way, there is part of that intellect. That's why the emotion is there. Because the fact of the matter is why you're emotional in the first place, why that emotion express itself. It's even if you got the reasoning, but it's sourced of it now. The main point is there's two separate things here. Unlike what we talked about before, which is yesh ma'ayin, the yesh who is Heichaltzu, being yesh ma'ayin is a novel thing. So therefore, it's constantly brand new. Therefore, the only way it will exist is when its life is being put into that existence. Just like the movie playing on the screen in the movie theater in the old days, only way the screen would show anything was because of what behind the scenes they're doing with the light through the film. Without that, the movie doesn't exist. And the only way it exists on the screen is the constant work behind the scenes. So what comes out of this? There's two opposite ideas here. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. On one hand, they're totally distant. The God from us is totally, it's two separate worlds, so to speak. It's totally, you don't see how there's a cause and effect. Unlike the intellect and emotions, we see how they come from each other. It's totally separated. Nevertheless, it's constantly there. Just like the screen is only shining, there's only something happening because of what's happening behind. And that has to be constantly happening. But at the same hand, you don't see that. Like, so to speak, when you go to that theater, you don't see behind what's happening. But without what's happening behind constantly, you won't have the video. You won't have the movie. Like it says, and we'll quote this from Tanya, saying it's for pasuk, but Tanya talks about this. Hashem constantly, your words are standing. The words that the 10 utterances that keeps the world in existence, that God created the world, those 10 utterances that Hashem created the world constantly happen. But those words are constantly happening, to constantly exist, just like the video is constantly moving, turning the film so you can see the video. And yesh ma'ayin, something from nothing, it needs to have both of them. On one hand, you don't recognize it, you don't see it at all, but on the other hand, it's constantly there. Which means in simple English, that as much as we don't see godliness here, that's how it has to be. But in the same hand, godliness is all here. This whole thing is godliness. And that's one idea. That's one idea of recognizing that the reality of this world is that it's constantly being brought into existence by God. And it's level yesh ma'ayin. It's not a cause and effect. It's not God made the world and God's gone somewhere else and he's hanging out somewhere else. He's here, totally here. Just like the screen showing the video is only on the movie theater is only because of what's happening over there constantly. So too with our world, we constantly exist. That we look at it like, oh, what do you mean? Every day the sun goes up, the sun goes down. We have buildings, we have a house, we live life. We're totally free to do whatever I want. But that's happening only because of this constant God energy put into it. That's one thing to think about. And another way to think about it, that's very most ain't safe. That's my only thing about godliness itself and how great that is. This is seeing how God is so much in our world and the paradox of how he is and he isn't. But another way, just thinking about how great God is, how exalted he is, I should look the last, and like we say in davening, to his greatness, there is unfathomable. Since you think about this concept, what we talked about the last 2 days, and you think about it, you learn it again. It could be that you just need to learn it more times to really get it. And then when you get it, you're like, oh, I get this. And then you think about it and you try to bring about it to someone. Like we talked about before, speaking to people sharpens the mind. So you talk about it, you say, I've learned this concept about yesh ma'ayin, this is what I understand what it means. And you really connect with them. Until you get it really well. And then to the extent until the godly night and all its glory, all its awesomeness, will shine itself in a revealed way in your soul, like we talked about in Kuntres film. The richness of godliness is it shines within you. When you appreciate it, you learn this, and you really connect with it, you realize it, and like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, this is my world, this is the world existing that I do turn mitzvahs in. This is what God is doing. This is how he's investing himself into this. So what happens when you realize this? What will happen? And then you become very happy. This is the happiness of the soul in Hashem who made it. And you realize this is what God made me, and God made this world, and God is constantly recreating the world every single moment for me. And it's like, this thing is so powerful, I can barely understand this. And that's what he's doing to me. Why? Because he needs me to be here, to do things. What will that cause? Your soul will come to cleave to God. With a yearning, and a desire, and a thirsty soul. You'll become thirsty connected to God. And through understanding this, and through learning this. In general, this is called the avodah from love. This is the love. When you appreciate godliness and you just want to get close to him because of this. It's like recognizing, it's like, for example, in simple, it's getting over time, but it's like recognizing a teacher that really cares for you. And they really put in a lot of effort in helping you succeed. And when you start to learn about what the teacher did for you, how much would you want to be connected to the teacher? And yeah, I have a story, but I'll save it tomorrow. Just finish it. I want to just finish it off. This is the cleaving of the soul and its happiness on Hashem. Just like the happiness, the love of the one that you're loving over his beloved. It's explained elsewhere. Kitzur, the summary. Avodah b'simcha. We talked about the avodah through being happy. How do you be happy? Is recognizing the greatness of Hashem. Mitzad atzmai, either because of that idea itself, or mitzad abriya, or because of the creation and how the creation exists. Yesh ma'ayin, and the concept of yesh ma'ayin, of that there's something from nothing. The way we exist is coming from a nothingness, but a true nothingness in God. It's bein arech. They're infinitely incomparable. That the creator is constantly in the creation, that God constantly is here. And to be continued tomorrow in the second way of learning through humility. Thank you everyone for joining. 1 second.